This is from Joe. He says, not me. Coach Lawrence says, put all fronts in early so we can refer back to them and use them later in the season as needed. Um, so we're, from the defensive side of the ball, he says, as long as you're running a system, you can adjust to the various schemes that you'll face. This year we faced power I, Maryland I, wing T, gun T, shotgun double wing teams more than any time in the past 14 years. So we couldn't simply stay in a three front. And also blitzing to add to the fronts wasn't good enough. We actually needed to line up in heavier front. So I believe that coach is in a 33 stack. I don't think he's here tonight. I think that one of the strengths of our system is that we can use our terminology and line up in anything. And so where the strength of this comes in, I don't know if you have to put in all of those different fronts and refer back to them, but we will when I run the defense or when I do scout defense. So if I'm the offensive coordinator, I'm not this year, but in past however many years I have been as the offensive coordinator, I would script and design the scout team defense. And I would not go out there and say, hey, coach, they're in a 4-4 this week. All right, cool. Like, which is what happens a lot. I would use the wristbands and they would have the alignments and they would have the slant calls. And so, or whatever it is. And so I would have on there, hey, you're in a 4-tech and a 0-tech and a 4-tech, and you're running Toro slant. So they're slanting to the strength. And so we would run that in scout team. And of course, in the early part of the year, I want our offense to see multiple fronts. The first week, we're probably just going to run against our defense. So let's say that we're running running a 4-2-5 defense. So the first week, we're just going to be blocking a 4-2. But if I do that, I'm just teaching my guys how to block a picture. And the picture changes and they don't know how to block different pictures. If you've I don't know if we have any of the wristband stuff up. We have. I got it from Thad Wells years ago, and our bands have, we can put different fronts in. So in camp summer, August, the scout team defense will be getting into all the different fronts, and in summer we will be repping more guys on offense as we figure out who the starters are and who the backups are. And when you only have 27 guys, that means everybody goes over and plays scout team at some point. So that's how I've done it. But I absolutely agree. You need to be able to, I don't want to jump into a lot of different fronts. But I want the ability to jump into something if I want to. The key is I don't want to be able to jump in 9 different fronts in a game. But if I get these fronts that Coach Lawrence is talking about, power I, Maryland I, wing T, not as much, but depends. Gun T, shotgun double wing, but like a double wing, we have to have our double wing front in. But my players are going to have lined up in all those different things. And ultimately what's going to matter is, are you spill? Are you force? Are you alley? And so they're, if they are defensive linemen or they are linebackers, it will say on there, hey, you're going to line up in a 2, you're going to line up, or let's say you're going to line up in a 3-tech. You're going to line up in a 3-tech, and then it'll say their job, which is spill. They will be using the same key reads, all of that stuff. And so they'll learn to play in a head up and they'll learn to play in a shade. You talked about blitzing to create fronts in the 3-3, and that's where we always start. But we needed to line up in heavier fronts. Obviously, I think you need to have a goal line front of some sort for sure. So, yeah. Be able to line up in different stuff. Oh, we also always on scout team have a choice. I think was what it says on the wristband, which is line up wherever you want to. One of the biggest frustrations for me is when I hear it from coaches, I hear it from players, but you'll hear a player who knows what we're supposed to be seeing this week tell the defensive lineman you're supposed to be here. And it's like, you can't do that on Friday, though. And so we have so we kill that immediately, because there's a choice call where everybody gets to line up wherever they want. And we learned how to block junk. And I can tell you that last week, and it's not the first week, but last week we got junk. We got junk fronts. And our offensive line is a little bit behind where they need to be. We're getting there, but we're a little bit behind where we need to be. And junk fronts caused a problem. We had a 4-eye and a junk front. We had, a 4-eye and a 0. And we didn't know how to combo the 4-eye. And we didn't understand that, hey, I got to base him, or if I can get inside him, all that sort of stuff. It was like a tight front kind of look. We had another week where we had, or maybe been last week, but we had double 3s at one point. We had a split 4-4 front, double 3s and like 20 tech backers. And that should be really easy for us. And for some reason, we were like, they're not where they're supposed to be. So we need to see more junk. And yep. Anything to add on that one?
Yeah, I had the same. I was typing this up in the email actually, and it's kind of the same thing, but with all of your system, it seems like we were constantly trying to install till week 7 of 9 on the freshman staff or freshman group this year, and we had a big swap right in the middle, so we did some other stuff, but we were constantly having to put in a new blitz or a new this or a new that, and it was week 3 or 4, and I'm trying to install cover 3 to get some blitzes out of them. So a lot of that came with me being a first time in the 3-4 system. So that, I guess the real lesson learned there is know your system. But I wish I would have installed more fronts, more slants, more blitzes, and had a better piece together system. So, Coach, I'm right there with you, Coach Nelson, and just get more stuff put in early. Build that install schedule to where you don't have to keep installing for 5 weeks.
Next one, we'll have to pick up pace a little bit here. As far as practice goes, never sacrifice individual time for team time. Biggest lesson learned in coaching football in 2023. I think it's a great one. Early on, we did a tremendous amount of individuals that bled over into group, and that helped our team, period. But when the season started, we sacrificed indie time. That is the normal path of things. We sacrificed indie time for the sake of game plan. Big mistake. Lost 2 games because of it. Gave up 44 and 68 points in those weeks. Went back to what we did in the beginning and molded the game plan around indie time. And from that point forward, we have had 3 shutouts and given up less than 16 points per game. So less is more. The argument for a practice plan shell, which is in JDFB coaching systems, all of our systems, I believe, have 90-minute practice plan. Most have like 2-hour practice plan schedules as well. Templates, you can find the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday templates that are there with the 90-minute practice plan. I think that's in the defensive drill system. And if you use that, we don't sacrifice indie time. We don't waste indie time. If you got 3 periods of indie, you're doing the same, just so you got defensive line. It's defensive line key read drill. Go do it. You need 2 periods, but that's what they do. And, offensive line, we're working on, like we mentioned, we're spending a lot of time on offensive line right now on who to get and how to get there, which, we spend a lot of time on that. Now we spend a lot of time on the day that I'm there. I'll say that. The day that I'm there, we spend a lot of time on it and making sure that it's right, how to get there, the footwork. We do a lot of bird walking during that time, and then go to team. And I think the only other thing that I would add is do shorter team time, but don't sacrifice reps. The biggest team is the biggest slop fest for so many practices. We run a play. It takes 2 minutes to run one play or more sometimes, or we're trying to talk through it, or we're trying to fix it. Script it, wristband the scout team, wristband. If you need to wristband, now I don't wristband the offense because we're not going to be doing that in a game. But I will wristband the scout team so that they aren't fluffing around trying to figure out what to do. And then we are going to go fast. We are going to go as fast as possible. On offense, having a wristbanded scout offense means that we are basically a hurry up, no huddle in practice the entire time against the defense. By the way, the defensive coordinator hates that. But we're not sacrificing reps. So I would agree, you've got to have your indie time focused. But if you're going to do something like a 90-minute practice plan or even a 2-hour practice, they just drag. Team time, make sure your team time is real tight. And you don't have to sacrifice reps. You just have to be better planned. Next one. Defensive line, offensive line play is everything. Without the war horses, nothing else matters. War horses. War daddies, war horses, iguanas.
Stand
iguanas. Up. The war daddies was a favorite for a while. It was like the big 3-tech one. And then everybody's a dog now. But I like war horses. Like the Trojan horse. Like that's what I think, the big, like carrying the troops in. Tried to for 5 seasons to put the kids where we thought that they would be most successful. That was usually involving our few athletes sprinkled amongst the players on the team. The last 3 games, we revamped our position chart and moved our athletes to the defensive line. We crushed the other teams. It was our last games with these kids, and we had lost almost every game over those 5 years. I will never again delay putting our best athletes, hopefully biggest and best, anywhere but in the trenches. OLBs are the second group that we struggled with until we put athletes there, not players. I do think the safeties, strong safety, weak safety, free safety for a single high are really, really important. But yeah, I think what a lot of coaches, and I think maybe what he's saying is we put big kids, and this is what I'm getting out of this, and I could be wrong. I don't know. I didn't get a name on this one. Sounds like we put big kids on the line, right? Because they were big, and figured out let's put some athletes on the line, and not just the big kids. And that the worst thing for years, I've felt this way. Here's the thing I do not want to see the most. I do not want to see single-digit hands in the dirt on defense. That sucks from an offensive coordinator standpoint. If I see 4 kids with single-digit numbers, because everybody knows how you give out numbers. Number 1 is the fastest kid. Number 2 is the second fastest kid. Number 3 is the third. The numbers are given out by 40 times. And so if I see 3, 5, 6, and 7, crap. Like they're going to chase us down. They're going to, they're going to be up the field. They're going to be pass rushing us. So 100%, we've done it with our weak side end for years, somewhat with the nose, but especially with the weak side end in a 4-2 and a 4-3. And I love it in the 3-3. It's why I don't think it matters. Guys are like, well, we need to be in 3-3 because we don't have that many defensive linemen, or we have a lot of linebackers. It's like, just put one of their hands in the dirt. We just have a bunch of linebackers. Great. Put one of their hands in the dirt. You don't have to change the scheme. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. We would take the weak side end. The weak side end would always be the kid who didn't win one of the safety jobs. He probably is a running back. He probably has a number between 1 and 12. So that's the kid that goes there. The quarterback usually, even if he's not that fast, he usually gets one of those single-digit numbers. So, you skip over 1. But he doesn't get like 1 unless he's really fast. He gets like 6 or 7 or something like that. You can't have the fast. You can't have 1 unless you're actually fast. The biggest mistake in coaching. Number 1 should be feared. All right. Jump in anytime if y'all have anything to add. And then you can also post questions. I'll try to have a little bit of time for questions at the end. I need to do a better job of teaching coaches. So this is our next one. I need to do a better job of teaching coaches and checking back in with them. I've been down that road to make sure that they understand to make sure that they understand what and how to coach their players, and also setting expectations as to how to coach during a game. And he referenced an email that I sent out about spectators. Um, our coaches spent too much time watching the game like a fan, and in turn felt the need to talk to the refs, react to general to outcomes as opposed to focusing on their position group and finding flaws that they can adjust during the game to fix the flaws. I think you absolutely have to give your coaches, this is what I need from you during the game. Otherwise, you aren't going to get it. Um, and you need to work on that. And this is from Aaron. Um, he says, when coaches know more, they can confidently coach their position groups in the system we run, and they do not feel like they need to come up with gimmicks each week to try and solve a problem or focus on a small detail of the upcoming game to try to stop and sacrifice the entire system. Also, if our coaches can be a coach during the game, it can take out the emotion and refocus them on the technique of their players. I think that the again, focusing on the defensive side, the genius of the defensive drill system is like, here is everything you need to coach. You have that, and then you have your, however you teach block destruct, which I prefer to teach everybody how to rip move. However you teach tackling, I like hawk tackling. From the defensive side, that's everything. So defensive line, they squeeze a down block. They fight a reach block. They fight a base block. They fight or they get a pass set, so they pass rush, and they screen retrace. So one of those 5 things is what's happening every single time that there's a mistake on the defensive line. And if the defensive line is making a mistake, we're not screaming, the defensive line is lazy. They're standing up. You got to get tougher. Pad level. That's my favorite one right now. Pad level. It's, if it's a base block, if you got beat on a base block, it's post hip rip. You got a post hip rip there. If he didn't squeeze a down block, hey, you've got to get to your strike point. Where's strike point? Bottom corner of the outside number. Chase that strike point. That'll automatically fix it. You'll go down. You'll squeeze down. I mean, not automatically. Just saying the word doesn't automatically fix it, but it's certainly like they understand. I'm not just yelling out random things. If he misses a tackle, because we teach, eyes through the thigh, squeeze the legs, drive for 5, all that sort of stuff. We can very simply say, hey, or I teach eyes through the thigh. I still teach a balance point. So that's where you come to balance, come under control. But the eyes through the thigh, balance point. And so if a guy is overrunning a tackle and the kid cut back on him, I'll say balance point. Okay. You got to be under control, keep your eyes up, all that sort of stuff. Yes. Say balance point. It's very quick. Balance point. If he bounced off the tackle, squeeze the legs, whatever it is. They just threw a shoulder. Like, when the kid just throws a shoulder like he's in the NFL, they do it in the NFL and it works because they're absolute trucks. They also bounce off of people sometimes too. But you'll see guys just throw a shoulder in the NFL, and you see a guy throw a shoulder and bounce off, and they're like screaming at him. And it's very simple. It's like, squeeze the legs. It's like we don't have to go lose our minds. Squeeze the legs. This was a really good one, I thought. Giving your position group coaches, making sure. This is my years ago at a defensive line. He's a good football coach now. He's a good coach overall. But with the first year that we installed the 4-2, I believe, or maybe it was a 4-3, but it was his first year, I think, working with our defensive line, and he was supposed to spill a down, or he's supposed to do, at the time we would work a bend and train wreck drill, or bend and wrong arm, bend and train wreck. We changed the name to just blow up the guy. And I'm coaching my safeties. Like we taught all this. We had coach day to go over everything. And week 6 or something, send the safeties to water. I just walk over to check on the defensive line. And he is coaching them backwards. They are right arming the down, they're squeezing and hitting it with their inside shoulder. And I had just assumed, What I would do if you have a position group, if you're able to wander around and go jump in and coach the different position groups. One of the things that I learned a while ago was don't worry about stepping on toes. I'm not going to take your position group away from you, but I'll jump in and coach every position as a coordinator. I don't care. I will jump in and I will coach that position group, and I will just because not because I know better than you or because I'm better than you, but we are both on the same team. We are both on the same page, and I have, as a coordinator, a level of knowledge of this that you may not, and so I will jump in and coach it sometimes, or I will have a different way of saying it, or I will just come in and it will remind you. But what I would do is I would ask your assistants to film one drill every day. They don't have to sit there and film everything. Film one drill, 2 minutes of the drill, not every rep. If you have the availability of a manager or something, somebody around that you could hand them your phone or hand them a camera and say, hey, can you just walk around and film 3 minutes of each, just whatever they're doing, and film it, sound on and everything. Because I want to be able to watch it and let's talk about the way that you're coaching. I might see something that I like too. I might see something that I want to steal. I hope so. But I would do that. Oops. Lost track. Where are we? Need to do a better job. But yeah, go check back on your coaches. Don't just assume. Being a position coach, being a head coach are significantly different in the world of football. That is our next lesson learned. Yeah. I'll just go and read it because this is the truth. How did this lesson make your football team better is the question, by the way. It's answered in the second part. I became a first-time head coach this season. I knew there would be a lot of new experiences. By the way, congratulations. It's always exciting. I became a first-time head coach once, too. I also became a last-time head coach. I didn't know that the experience and the feeling of being a head coach would be completely different from being a position coach. If you just love pure football, drills, technique, one-on-one player relationships, teaching the game, a position coach may be the best place for you. I would add coordinator as well. However, if you desire to be a bigger factor in the program overall, build a relationship with the players, the administrators, the parents, the feeder programs, the teachers, mentor other coaches, connect with other programs along with the classic football activities, and a head coach position is right for you. Just know you give up a little of the true football loves to take on those bigger responsibilities. At the same time, the rewards are often sweeter, as well as the lows sting a little more. That is absolutely true. If you love coaching football, do not become a head coach because you don't get to coach football anymore. You are not the football coach anymore. I've have had so many head coaches who are just like so happy when they have a day to go out. We haven't had as much this year, but a couple of years ago when we came into this program, I remember that our head coach would be messing with, trying to get this thing straight, trying to get it on the. Well, it may have been Amelia actually, because there was a lot more going on there. And he would come down. He didn't have a position group. We had 5 coaches. Everybody, coached both sides of the ball, and so we had all the position groups covered. He would just come down every once in a while, and he would just take my position group and coach. And it was just because he just wanted to coach. He just wanted to coach for 15 minutes. And, that like you don't get to coach. Head coaches don't coach. I mean, you do. We have to. When I was a head coach, I was, I didn't have a position group on defense, but I ran the offense as well. I had to coach. I'm also really good at just telling people not to bother me. But I did not want all of that. And I can tell you that if you don't want, I didn't mind parents as long as I set strict boundaries with parents. I didn't mind administrators, but administrators like to set their own boundaries, which don't match up with mine. And I'm not capable of working for anyone at this point in my life, other than head football coaches that I like. Feeder programs. If you are going to sacrifice, if you are going to ignore your JV, your freshman, your middle school, your youth programs in the area, you're probably not going to have long-term success. You are the head coach of all of those things. Maybe not the youth programs, but absolutely anything with your name on it, with your school name on it, you should be the head coach of it. I'm still fascinated to hear from middle school coaches who don't work with the varsity. Our middle school coaches are on the sidelines. Our middle school coaches are there at game days, and all that sort of stuff, and they should be, because eventually they move up to be JV and varsity. Um, what else did mentor? Mentoring other coaches. My biggest regret as a head coach, my first year, my only year, was we have football coaching 101 opening up around Thanksgiving. And I talk about that, and I say the football coaching 101 level. So there's three levels. There's football coaching 101, there's football coaching mastery, and there's coordinator masterclass. So football coaching 101 is what I think every football coach should know before they step on the field. And football coaching mastery is what every football coach should know after 1 year of coaching. What actually happens is it usually takes 5 or 10 years for all of that to come through, if it ever does. And then coordinator masterclass is what's at is when you're ready to be a coordinator. Now, a lot of guys like Daniel skipped over all of that and went straight to coordinator, ready or not. And I went to coordinator before I was ready too, but that's what that course is all about. My biggest regret and what it led to me creating that course was realizing at the end of a year that my assistant coaches, the new coaches, the ones who hadn't coached before, had not learned as much as I thought they should. And that's my responsibility as a head coach. So all of those things you have to be willing to do. PJ says you coach different positions, still be involved, help kids individually. I agree with that. I would try to be involved in different position groups and not just, I think you lose touch with some of your players. I would be involved in the weight room. I would be involved like as much as possible with different position groups, because I know I've heard from coaches in like Texas that have, and I know, look, I get it. You have 300 kids in your program. You're not going to know them all, but like, yeah, and I understand that's a difference, but like I would be involved with the coaches at least and try to get to know them all. Next one, biggest lesson learned coaching football in 2023. Don't get cute or overthink things on offense. Stay true to who you are and keep it simple. This one comes from Mark. How did this lesson make your football team better, make you a better coach? When I break down all of our offensive drives, things would fall apart when I tried to get cute in my play calling. Counter was our go-to play this year. We had a physical O-line. We had a lot of success running the ball, and staying with counter, even on 3rd and long at times, was usually the right call. Absolutely. We're good at counter, I would say. Power and counter. Shut up, Siri. We are good at power and counter. And we will get into situations where it's like, oh, we ran power. And I'll just go back to Friday night. We ran power the 2nd or 3rd play of the game, or for our offense, and it went for 92 yards or something like that. It opened up and it touchdown. And then the next time we ran it, it didn't open up and go for a touchdown. So we're like, I guess the thought process, which is natural, and I've had it too, was like, all right, they figured out how to stop it. We got to go do something else. It's like, and this was a cover 0 junk front defense. And it's like, or we could just run that 5 more times, and there's a good chance one of them's going to pop. I could be wrong, but I think if you just have the stick to itiveness, or you watch what the adjustment was, that's the other thing, is you got to pay close attention to, okay, if they stopped it, why did they stop it, and what's the adjustment that we make? Again, that the offensive play caller system goes through that. So agree with that one absolutely as well. Each kid learns differently. Biggest lesson learned in 2023. Each kid learns differently. They do not learn the same way I learned when I was their age. There are so many uncontrollable variables at home, school, and with technology, social media, cell phones, etc., that they are not focused on learning or why they are playing. I had to learn each player of my position group's learning style. Some are audio, some are visual, some are kinesthetic, some are a combination of 2 or all 3 learning styles. The rest needed daily repetitions of what was taught the day before. I think they all need that. I had to be like water and teach in different ways, and it made me a better teacher by learning their learning style. There's studies on learning style that it might be BS, but I agree with this in other ways. Most people, if the studies have basically said, hey, what's your learning style? And people say, well, I learn best by watching a video. Well, you learn worst. I cannot learn by listening to a lecture, or I cannot learn by reading the book or something like that. And then they will do experiments where they will, and I don't know how all this is designed. I got down a YouTube rabbit hole. It's probably not official, but by and large, people either learned better with their supposed worst learning style, or it was the same, no difference from their best learning style. We may like one of them better, but we don't act. If we actually need to learn something, learning styles, you know, what I think kids learn best by understanding, by being in something that they want to do and understanding why what you're teaching them is important, and then doing it over and over and over again. As far as football goes, you can't do that. And but I mean, that's your learning style. I want to be here. Why do I suck at learning science? Because I don't really care. Like I just don't care. But I could always learn history because I thought it was cool, and it wasn't like anything about that. I think that if the kid wants to be there, and I'll add another one. Kid wants to be there, believes that you can actually help them. You no longer get any authority by just being, by getting a whistle and being coach. You have to prove to these kids that you have some knowledge of the game. JDFB works that way because we're going to give you all these things that you can say and sound really good. But you need to show the kids that you have knowledge and that you can make them better at something that they want to be better at. Tell them why the things that we're working on are important. Show them this is a piece of the game. Show them this is how it works in the game. This is why it matters. Here's somebody using it in the game. Here's you using it in the game. That was amazing. That's great. We can do it even better. We're going to keep working on it. That's the learning style, and doing it over and over and over again. But you definitely have to work with different kids. So yeah. And I'm going to run through a few, and then we're going to wrap it up here. Stick with the JDFB system from the start of the season to the end. I agree. Look, our coaches this is no joke. Our kids that and Lou went through this. Daniel's been through this. Our coaches that send the video to game film analysis every single week for 10 weeks, there's a massive difference in week 10 than from week 1. Our coaches who finally decide to send one in because it was a good one that they think might be good to look at in week 8, and it's like the same stuff that I was saying to the other guy week 1. You just didn't, it's, and having someone who knows the system look at it every day. Been a client for several years. This is how to make a team better. I've been a client for several years. This is the first season I was willing and able to fully implement the JDFB system, install plans, practice plans, drills, game planning, film review, chalk talks. I went all in. I know it made me a better coach, and my squad, who were freshmen last season, went from winning 1 game to winning 5. Not only did the team have success, the kids' football IQ went up significantly, which will make them more successful as they move up to varsity. I think I know who that one is. And like, yes, go all in. Whether it's me or someone else, go all in. Cherry picking little pieces from different places usually ends up not being greatly successful. Biggest lesson learned coaching football in 2023: expect more of new assistants in the off season to gauge their performance and effort in season. How to make you a better football team? We develop our skills and our ability to make adjustments on all aspects of the game. Experience is important, but work ethic can never be overlooked. Yeah, I mean, with new coaches, if they don't work, and look, I'm not criticizing anybody because I didn't work this offseason. I could have, but I would have been killing myself. And that's not really my thing anymore. I did that for a long time. I'm kind of over it. If you've hired somebody new and they don't have a good reason and they don't work hard in the off season, they're not going to suddenly work hard in season. By the same token, so yes, I would use that to decide like where people go on the staff. I would never in an average program, I wouldn't give everybody their position, hey, you're the coordinator, you're the this, you're the that in January. And we'll figure it out. Because if this dude's at every single weightlifting and every single 7-on-7 and every break that we get, he's in the office asking me about something in the playbook, trying to understand something better, I'm probably going to try to up his role somewhere. And the guy who I haven't seen might, might be moving his role down. Now, if it's somebody you've been coaching with for 20 years, that's a different deal. If you know their reputation, that's a different deal. If you know what they're about. But new coaches, absolutely. I agree that you need to see, but I will say this from the head coach standpoint. That's what I was getting to. Don't expect people to show up if you have no reason for them to show up. Like if everybody's if the way that your weight room runs, it shouldn't run this way, by the way. But let's say that you have a guy who runs the weight room, and then you need one more coach that's there to handle everything else. You can run your weight room with two coaches. You don't have a huge program. Then you should be rotating that second coach through and assigning days. But if there are things to be done, coaches should be showing up for it. So if you want coaches to show up, make sure that they have a reason and a role to be there. There isn't a standard edition of coaching, lesson learned 2023. And he said, this is the last one, I think. I broke the cycle of losing and the kids not wanting to play for this school. No, there is not a standard edition of coaching. It is not one size fits all. I think that that's one of the biggest misunderstandings about JDFB is that you come in and you are handed a playbook and the drills so as much as I say, yes, do commit to that, everybody's situation is different. And we spend lots of time adjusting and changing and how we talk to the kids. There is absolutely not a one size fits all way to coach. So I'll agree with that one as well. I think that's our last one. Yeah. So Daniel.
Yeah. So my biggest lesson learned this year, and I've learned a little bit every year, is just communication and coaching is so critical. And unfortunately, we're very, very bad at it. I don't know why. I've started getting emails from a few coaches on Twitter and stuff, and we've all seen it's exact same thing. It's communication. We're terrible as a group of guys in an office, all getting paid by the same people to do one task, and we just can't talk about it. And I don't know why that is. So just be better at communicating, and how it helps you. How it helped us this year was our staff had to have a little mini implosion about halfway through the year. And it's because I'm a new guy on staff. I was hired as a defensive coordinator. So it was I came in with an expectation of what a DC does, and that wasn't the way things have always operated there. And instead of having that conversation, having that conversation early on, I just ran with what I thought my role was. And it just led to a lot of bashing heads that didn't really need to be there if I had just communicated in the beginning what my expectations were, what theirs were. It wasn't a thing. But that's, I communicated with a coach last week, and he was asking me very simple questions. What am I supposed to say on the headset? Like, what are you guys talking about? What am I supposed to be looking for while I'm in the box? This was a guy who'd been a youth coach for a while, and he was volunteering at a local varsity. And I'm like, everyone's different. So everyone's going to want something different. Every head coach wants something different on the mic. Some people give you a little more free reign. Some want to, be the main communicator, and you're just giving feedback based on their questions. But he had never been told, but he also had never asked. So it kind of comes back to that extreme ownership of you've got to be the one to step up and ask those questions as well. Just communication's poor. So if you're a head coach, just over communicate what your expectations are. And you may think it sounds really stupid, but Coach Collins last year when I joined his staff was really good. I mean, he gave me a whole printed out piece of paper that was my game day duties, my walkthrough, like Thursday duties, if it's charging a thing or ensuring a trailer's loaded or a truck, who's going to drive, who's in charge of getting the all of our assistants on the sideline ready, who's setting up the camera, give everyone all of their expectations so that if they don't do something, it's something you can correct. But if you've never told them, then it's kind of hard to go, hey, no one set up the end zone camera, and now it's kickoff, and I'm screaming because it's unloaded, but it's at the just laying down there. So Overdue, overdue the communication. I think that before it gets annoying, you will solve 1,000 problems that are already annoying. So that's my biggest one.
I would agree with that one. The sideline one, and I'm gonna omit my um the podcast on people standing around. Yeah, um, sidelines, like everybody needs a job. We've talked about what the role is in the box, and like if I have luckily not been on the sidelines as a coordinator very much. And usually when I was, it was because the headset was broken. So I didn't need to worry about what the guy up in the box says. I prefer to be up in the box as a play caller. But if I'm on the headset and I'm on the sidelines and I'm calling plays and I have somebody up, so the year that I was a head coach, our JV offensive coordinator would be up, and because I can't be up in the box to be the head coach. And it was, look, when the ball hits the ground, you tell me the spot. You tell me what hash we're on, what the down and distance is. They tell me the yard line. You do not say anything else until after I have made the play call. Because I'm sitting there trying to figure out what to call on the sheet. I've already thought it through. I already know what I want to call on the next play. I'm just trying to find it. And then you can tell me after that, such and such, oh, yeah, that's when you get all don't tell me about what we did wrong or what we did, use our language, use our terminology, didn't squeeze a down block, something like that. Don't tell me he's being lazy or something, what do you not do? And
Right.
we'll figure it out. So, but very, very specific. I was very specific. Give me the spot, and then you don't say anything until the play call goes in. I will leave my mic on. You have the call sheet. I'm going to say purple 7. You can look at the call sheet and see what that is.
Yeah.
And if you were talking while I was doing that, then you missed the play call. Sorry. That's it.